I found out about my wife's affair when the police called me and summoned me for questioning regarding her lover. I honestly do not know what to do right now. I am not even sure whether I should be writing about this online, but my head is a complete mess, and I came here looking for advice. My wife and I have been married for 12 years. We have an amazing 11-year-old son. Until last night, I believed we had a strong marriage. I always treated her well. We never had financial problems, never had issues in our intimate life, and I never took her for granted. To be honest, every single morning I woke up thanking God that this woman chose me. And now I do not even know what to think anymore. Yesterday, as I was leaving work, I received a call from the local police department. They asked if I could come to the station as soon as possible. I panicked and asked whether something had happened to my wife or my son, but they told me not to worry and said everything was fine. They just told me to come immediately. When I arrived, they led me into a room with a table and 2 chairs. They asked for my name, and I gave it. Then they started asking me a lot of questions about a man my wife works with. I had not seen him or spoken to him since December 2019 during her company's Christmas party. The 2 officers kept asking the same questions over and over again. How long have you known about this? And how did you find out? The only answer I could give was, what are you even talking about? After about an hour of this interrogation, I stopped answering their questions and kept repeating the same thing. Where is my son? Where is my wife? Are they safe? Everything went in circles. This continued for about 2 hours with breaks. The officers would leave the room for 15 to 20 minutes, then come back and start all over again, like in some cheap TV show. The last time they entered the room, one of the officers handed me a tablet. He showed me a video of my wife having sex with that same man from work. I do not remember much of what happened right after that. I only remember screaming, "What the hell is this?" I had a full-blown panic attack right there in the police station, again and again. The officers called a doctor. He examined me and said my blood pressure was around 170 over 110. He wanted to send me to the hospital, but I refused. I told him I needed to find my wife and my son. When I calmed down a bit, the police explained that the man in the video had been sleeping with my wife and, apparently, with several other women. Earlier that morning, passers-by found him on a driveway. He had been beaten, raped, and set on fire. He was still alive, but in critical condition, and doctors did not know whether he would survive. His wife gave the police permission to access his phone and computer. That was where they found the video with my wife. They asked me where I was that morning. I answered that I had been at the gym and then at work, about 10 minutes away from the gym. They told me I was free to go, but suggested that I might not want to stay at home, because it was possible that the attack was connected to his affair with my wife. They also said my wife was not the only woman he had been involved with. I rushed home. My son was with our neighbors. I picked him up and we went home. We packed some clothes and his school laptop. I took my gun and we drove to my parents' house, 45 minutes away. I have not heard anything from my wife since then. Her phone goes straight to voicemail. I called the detective who had given me his card, and he told me that she was in the hospital with the man she had cheated on me with. Now I am sitting on the bed. On one side of me is my son. On the other side is my gun. My father is dozing off in an armchair in the living room, with a shotgun resting on his knees. I have not slept for more than 30 hours. I do not know what to do. Any advice would help. My head feels foggy. Edit. I just spoke with my wife's parents. It turns out she voluntarily admitted herself to a psychiatric ward.
Update 1. To those who said my story was fake, I can only respond from the bottom of my heart. I wish it were. Sometimes the truth really is stranger than fiction. To those who said they could not find any news about this incident, that is most likely because, due to the nature of the attack, a lot of information was deliberately withheld. Even our local news reported it only as an assault, and even then, it was just a single sentence in the evening broadcast. To those who hinted or directly claimed that the police would never behave this way, you are 100% wrong, because that is exactly what they did. I learned from my lawyer that the police are legally allowed to say and do almost anything, especially if you are not under arrest, as long as they do not make direct threats. They are allowed to lie straight to your face, which is exactly what they did. It turned out that my wife was not in the hospital with her lover when I contacted the detective. She had been admitted much earlier that same day to the psychiatric ward of the same hospital, while he was still in surgery. Why they lied about that, I do not know, but it is a fact. Naturally, after this incident, I became extremely distrustful of the police. When I woke up later that day, in the afternoon, I contacted my uncle's law firm partner. He is a close family friend. He came to my parents' house, and together we discussed what options I had. His firm now represents my interests both in the divorce proceedings and in criminal defense matters. That same Sunday, he helped me obtain an emergency custody order and a restraining order against my wife, covering me, my son, and my parents. The hearing was scheduled for 60 days later. The police served her with the papers on Monday, when she was discharged from the psychiatric hospital. According to her brother, who is also a close friend of mine, she took it very badly. She is now living with her parents. I still have not spoken to her, and she has not tried to contact me either. Whether it is due to shame, indifference, or the restraining order, I do not know. Either way, I am glad. My wife is not the person I thought she was, and I am ashamed that I did not see it sooner. I had to say something to my son, and I decided to tell him the truth, in a way appropriate for his age. His very first words were, "Please don't let Mom take me." I asked him why he would say that. He told me that my wife treated him very badly when I was not around, and told him that if he ever told me, she would take him away, and he would never see me again. She emotionally blackmailed and abused our son, and I was too blind to notice it. Honestly, that destroyed me more than the video ever did. I told my lawyer about this, and he used my son's words, my wife's mental condition, and her hospitalization to secure the emergency custody order. I also contacted my son's school to arrange therapy, and he began seeing a psychologist after New Year's. Right now, I feel like the worst father in the world. My wife's parents contacted me on Tuesday and asked to come see us. At the time, I was still at my parents' house. I told them they could come, but that my wife was not allowed to approach us. They agreed. They apologized non-stop. Her pale mother cried the entire time she was with us. Her father was devastated and kept referring to my wife as that girl. They both said they felt that something was wrong with her and that they had not raised her this way. We hugged and said goodbye through tears. I told them that regardless of how the divorce ends, they will always be part of our lives. After my son's confession, their visit was the second hardest moment of my life. My lawyers have done an incredible job so far. They discovered that the man my wife was sleeping with had a long criminal record. One of the lawyers said that when they printed out his arrest history, the printer ran for 5 minutes straight. From what they found, he is currently on parole for serious crimes and had past gang affiliations. He is still alive, but remains in critical condition and may not survive. The law firm has a private investigator who contacted one of my wife's co-workers, the woman who drove her to the hospital. She said that my wife's affair was common knowledge in the office. My lawyers believe that this is how the police figured out who I was and who my wife was in the video. There are several photos from last year's Christmas party, and my wife and I appear together in some of them. I am still lost. My heart is broken. Is there any way to get out of this emotional numbness faster? I experience reality as if it is not actually happening to me.
Update 2. First of all, my son is doing much better. He started seeing a psychologist during the first week of January, and the changes are already noticeable. I asked him if he was comfortable with me communicating with his therapist, and he agreed, so I have already spoken with her several times. According to the psychologist, my future ex-wife verbally and emotionally abused our son whenever they were alone together. He was not allowed to make noise or disturb her in any way when she was at home. She would leave him alone for long hours and even overnight if I was away. Then she threatened him, saying that if he told anyone, she would take him away and he would never let him see me again. The psychologist said that all of this made him feel helpless and dependent during a stage of development when he should instead be learning independence and self-confidence. Because of that, I bought him his own phone and helped him memorize phone numbers of relatives and as many useful addresses as possible. I also started teaching him how to navigate streets, remember street names, and read addresses on buildings. We practiced role-playing situations, how to ask for help, how to clearly tell a stranger that he is in danger and feels unsafe. I understand that this may sound a bit silly, but my son is quite shy and tends to shut down when he feels uncomfortable. Even though we have only been doing this for a few weeks, I can already see his confidence growing. If anyone has ideas on how else I can help him become more independent, I would really appreciate it. His safety and well-being are my top priority right now. As for me, I am holding on as best as I can. I started therapy around the same time my son did. Although I do not see my therapist as often as he sees his psychologist, the opportunity to talk through my thoughts and feelings about everything that happened to us in our family has genuinely helped. Now I feel a burning ball of anger in my stomach every time I think about my future ex-wife and everything she put us through. Strangely enough, even though I hate feeling angry, it is much easier to deal with than apathy. My therapist says this is part of the grieving process, and that what matters is not what we feel, but how we channel those emotions. My legal situation, honestly, is the most frightening thing I have ever dealt with in my life. I was granted temporary full custody and child support. I did not want this, but my lawyer insisted. The restraining order for me and my son was also extended during the hearing. Neither my wife nor her lawyer appeared at that hearing. The judge asked whether we would allow supervised visitation for my wife, but my son categorically refused. That is why my lawyer told me to bring him to the hearing. The judge asked if my son was willing to speak with him privately, and he agreed. The judge, the court reporter, and a child services officer took him into chambers, and the meeting lasted about 10 minutes. After their conversation, the judge upheld the temporary measures and ordered therapy and a psychological evaluation for my son. Fortunately, my son's psychologist is somehow affiliated with or accredited by the court, so we do not have to change specialists. My lawyer said this is a good thing, because now this psychologist can provide an official opinion regarding custody. Still, the thought that my wife might receive any form of custody after everything she has done absolutely terrifies me. As for her lover, I know very little. According to my lawyers, he is alive, but still hospitalized. The police have not contacted me since the first interrogation, so there are no updates from them. As for my future ex-wife, I have not seen her since the day I was summoned for questioning until last Thursday. She tried calling me several times, but I did not answer. When she called from a different number, I immediately hung up. I have nothing to say to her. I do not want to hear anything from her. Her lawyer filed a request for a preliminary hearing regarding court-ordered mediation. She was served the notice in the second week of January. She showed up with her lawyer. I know this may sound petty, but even with makeup on, she looked terrible. She had always been an attractive, athletic woman. I swear, in our wedding photos, she looks like a supermodel. Now she has lost so much weight that it is frightening. She looked sick and exhausted and did not look at me once. She sat the entire meeting with her head down. In short, everything her lawyer requested was absurd. They wanted her to be allowed visitation with our son during the divorce proceedings and joint custody afterward. They wanted the restraining orders lifted. She wanted to live in the same house with me until the divorce was finalized. I'm not joking. After everything that happened, she wanted to live under the same roof with me.
If you want to continue the story, subscribe and like this video.